As a longtime fan of Descript, I have to say the new Descript is better than ever. The functionality of video editing within Descript has greatly improved. Plus, we have all these new AI features in the Underlord. And now there's a whole new way to record your polished, pro-looking videos. My name is Meredith. I'm here to help you look good, sound good, and feel good on camera so that you can build your thriving video brand. And I'm going to walk you through the new Descript step by step. If you want to grab my cheat sheet, I'll put a link to this down below. It's just a one-page free printable. It might help you out as we go through all of the phases of the new Descript here. Now, one thing you have to understand about Descript is it's different than all of the other video editors out there because you have this drive workspace. A lot of people don't realize that this works just like your hard drive or a Google Drive where you have folders and you can organize everything. So for example, you can star your folders so they show up in your sidebar over here on the left. Keeping your projects organized saves a lot of time and a lot of headaches down the road. So let me open up my YouTube folder. You can see I don't have any projects here yet because I put them all in my archive. I'm not usually this organized. I just clean things up to make this video. Up here on the right, let's hit Start Project. I'm going to choose Video Project. So we're met with a blank screen where we can import from Zoom, we can import from our hard drive, or we can hit record. Now, Descript has a whole new way of recording called rooms, but there's a few things you should know about making sure that your recordings within Descript are high quality so that the videos you create are, pro looking and polished. So we'll get to that in just a second. For right now, I'm going to import a video that I already recorded just so that I would have an example for this video that I'm creating right now. You can see that Descript asks if I want to have it transcribed. This is a setting. You can uncheck the box if you want. I like to have it ask because your account only comes with a certain number of transcription minutes, and sometimes I don't want to spend the minutes. Sometimes I don't need that transcription. In this case, I do. So I'm going to hit transcribe. It's just me talking to the camera. So I would have a few different options here if this was like a podcast episode, for example, but I'm going to select my name. It's going to obviously detect me as the only speaker. I'm going to hit done. I'll give it a second to transcribe. So now I have my transcript over here on the left-hand side. I have my playback window in the center. And then over on the right is basically where you find all of the features and functions that exist within Descript. At the bottom, if I hit show timeline, this is where we have our traditional timeline editor. Now, if you're anything like me and most people, you're using Descript because you want to save as much time as possible when it comes to creating and editing your videos, right? And Descript is a fantastic tool for that, even if you use it as a traditional editor, because you can see all of the places in your transcript where you have made a mistake or there's silence or dead space. You can highlight it in the transcript, hit delete, and it's gone. You can go through here and do this all manually. You could get rid of your filler words manually. And you can do all that in the transcript, or you can use this like a traditional editor where you are editing in the timeline. You could split your clip. You could say that you split it here, delete this middle part. It acts just like a regular editor in the timeline, and all of the editing you do in the transcript reflects in the timeline. Anything you do in the timeline reflects in the transcript as well. You can see it happening like in real time. But if you really want to be efficient with your editing, you already know that the sooner you can get to the final version of your edit and get out of this like basic editing mode, the better off you're going to be, because you'll end up spending way less time editing your videos. And this is where Descript is an absolute beast. In the sidebar over here on the right hand side, the very top menu option is the Underlord, and that's where all of Descript's AI functions reside. If you're a little bit leery of AI, I'm not suggesting that you're going to let AI just completely take over and edit your entire video and you're not going to have any control at all. It's not like that. It's more like an assistant built into your editor. And there's a couple of hidden features and shortcuts embedded into the editor here that I want to show you that will end up saving time that actually have nothing to do with AI. Let's come under the sound good section of the Underlord. One of the first things I like to do is this shorten word gaps option. This is going to basically open up a search function where instead of searching for a specific word or phrase, it's searching for silences, word gaps, all these places in your transcript where you see the ... These are all word gaps. I just like to think of them as dead space. What I like to do is look for any that are 1 second or longer, and then it'll give me these search results over here on the right hand side. Now I could go through all of these and just sort of like take a look and watch all of them and see this is where, you know, you're not really letting the AI take over. It's just assisting you. It's just pointing out, hey, here's a few places where you might want to like tweak things a little bit. I find that it does a very good job, and I don't go through all of these. I just hit shorten all, and it will remove all of the dead space just like that. Now I just hit undo to all that because I want to show you this remove retakes, because this is the second thing that I tend to do with my videos, is to let Descript find any place in my video where I have restarted my sentences. And this is a pretty short video, so it only actually picked up this one section. You can see that it's recommending that I remove this section here where I tripped over my words. Now this was like an example recording I created just for this video, so I did this on purpose. But the truth is, I screw up my words in my videos all the time. So I could preview this and just hit play. Features and Descript's new AI. See how it skipped over everything that it crossed out. In a longer video, it'll have more results for me to review, and I can either decide to accept the edit or discard the edit, or what I would rather do, which is copy the edits to a new composition. So now what I have here is within this one Descript project, I have two compositions. I have the original and I have the AI edits from Meredith's recording, as it called it. That way, if I make a mistake or I change my mind or I want to go back to the original, you know, before the Underlord started doing Underlord things, I have an original that I can always go back to. Now, there's a couple other features here in this sound good section. There's studio sound, which is going to basically attempt to improve your overall audio quality. And I will tell you, if you are recording in a train station or a coffee shop, studio sound is great. If you're recording in your home, in a room with a carpet, door shut, nobody's around, and you have, you know, a halfway decent microphone, you probably don't need studio sound at all. It'll take a few minutes to apply to your whole video, and once it's done, you want to go into the intensity and bring it down a little bit, like 80–90% or so. 100% studio sound is usually too much and actually creates like more distortion and sounds worse than whatever the original sounded like. So just be mindful of that. Remove filler words is not a tool that I usually use. You can see here I have a lot of filler words because I did that on purpose. For me, filler words are just kind of like part of the natural way that I speak. This edit for clarity function is something that if you want to use, you're going to have to play with. You're going to have to spend a little bit of time to figure out the intensity level that would work best for you. When I choose heavy and then let it go, it got rid of almost everything. It got rid of so much that if we were to play this video back, it would sound so like fake and choppy, and I don't like that. Now, to keep this crash course concise, I'm not going to go through every single Descript feature. I might do that in a future video, but you should know that if you decide to use the eye contact AI or the green screen, those things tend to take several minutes to kind of like crunch the data as it goes through your video. So plan to make a cup of coffee or get a snack while you let those things go. So now we have a pretty good rough cut here. We're a lot closer to the final video that is ready to be exported than we were when we first started, right? And we used the AI to help us get there without having to do it all manually. Now, my video editing philosophy, no matter what software I'm using, is BFF, basic, fine-tune, fancy. I've just used the Underlord to help me get to the next phase, to get beyond the basic phase and into the fine-tuning phase. The fine-tuning phase is where I hit play at the very top of the video and just start fine tuning things from there. So I'm not going to rely solely on the AI to edit. I like to tighten up the ends or beginnings of my cuts. Like you can see here that I have some dead space where this cut was made. I'm just going to tighten this up a little bit by dragging the ends of the cut. If I have more dead space that I need to cut around, I will put the cursor here, hit S on the keyboard, and then in another spot hit S on the keyboard again. And now I've basically made these two cuts right there in the timeline, and then I hit delete on my keyboard. I put some of the common keyboard shortcuts that I use here inside of my Descript cheat sheet. So don't forget, that's a free download. I'll link to it in the description. You can use the blade tool for this as well. I try not to switch back and forth between the tools because then I have to switch back and forth between the tools. And remember, the editing functions with Descript are exactly the same whether you record with Descript or record with your phone or directly into your camera and then import into Descript. But if you come down to record with others, it's going to open up a whole browser window. You can select your camera or however you have your camera connected to your computer. In my case, it's the Elgato Cam Link. You then, of course, want to select your microphones, and then I'm going to hit join. And what this does is creates a remote recording space, kind of like a Zoom call or Riverside, but it's all right here within Descript. If I was recording with someone else, I could send them this link so that they could join. But since it's just me, I'm going to hit the X there. There's a couple of other settings up here under your icon. Let's go to settings. Let's go to video. I can choose to have the 1:1 square or the 16:9. We'll go with 16:9. This one's really cool. You can choose to center yourself, which means you can get in line. You can center your microphone. You can make sure that you're, oh boy, I'm a little, my angles are just a little off according to this, but I like mine better. And you can leave that there for yourself and it's not going to affect your final recording, or you can have no overlay at all. So this is going to record a maximum of 4K as it says here. My camera is only in 1080. There's some other settings in here that you can play with, but let's hit record down here at the bottom. We get a little countdown and testing. We are recording in Descript rooms. One thing that you need to know is because this is recording directly to the cloud and designed to record multiple people at the same time, meaning like multiple audio input, multiple video input, the quality that you see on your screen might appear to be downgraded as you're recording, but it's actually recording the high quality, high definition video. It's just what it's showing you is downgraded so that it's, saves bandwidth, especially like if you had multiple people in here. As with anything, test it for yourself. Make sure that what it actually ends up recording for you is high quality, looks polished, and your camera's on the best settings and everything, which by the way, if you want to look as good as possible on camera, sound as good as possible on camera, and get your set up to a place where you look professional and polished in your videos, I have an entire Crush It on Camera series on my YouTube channel, which I'll link to down below. So our recording has been uploaded to the cloud, and because I hit record from right here within this project, the recording that I just created imported directly back into this same project. It might take a few minutes. Remember, it has to like upload and then download, has to go to space and back. So you may have to give it a little bit of time. And now I can edit this new recording the same exact way that I edited the recording that I imported. Now, some of my favorite time saving like shortcuts and hidden features in Descript have nothing to do with AI. For example, if you're playing around and you're kind of afraid of making an edit that you can't like hit undo from in the future, you can always come up here to your compositions, hit the three dots and choose duplicate, and it will duplicate your entire composition. So all of the edits you have made thus far, it'll just take that and make a duplicate so that you can work from the duplicate and always have that original to move back to. And if you really want to speed up your editing, you can actually adjust your playback speed. So as you're watching your video and editing your video, maybe you're looking for mistakes, maybe you're looking for places where you can tighten things up a little bit. You can listen up to 3x speed. That's wow. I don't know if I could do that, but for my longer podcast episodes, a lot of times I do listen at 2x, especially when I know that there's a good chance that there isn't anything that needs to be edited, but I do want to listen to everything just in case. If you can listen to your video at 2x, then you would be 2xing your editing speed, right? Another underrated feature of Descript is where maybe there's a section of a video where you're not totally sure, do I want to keep this? Do I want to get rid of it? Do I need to edit it up a little bit? I don't know. I don't want to make a decision on it right now. You could highlight that text and then choose a highlight color so you always have a visual to kind of come back to and find those places where you need to make a couple decisions. Or there's a spot here where I have this one sentence where I'm still talking while I reach for my coffee cup, and let's say I want to keep the audio in there, but maybe I need to add a little bit of B-roll in that spot. I could come in here and highlight this so I have a reminder for myself. Let's put it in blue. I might have a reminder for myself for later that, oh, these are all the places where I need to put in some B-roll, or I need to put in an image or a graphic. I could even leave a comment for myself that I need some B-roll here. The commenting features come in really handy if you have an editor or an assistant or somebody that you want to come in and either do the rough cut of your video or do the final edits of your video. You can communicate back and forth. And one more thing, you may have noticed this with the AI edits. This was a proposed edit that the Underlord made where it crossed out this whole section for me, but I can still see it. It doesn't play back when I hit play. It's not going to export when I export the final video, but it's still there in the script so that if I change my mind, I can always bring that section back. Or if my assistant edits something out of the video that I later decide, wait, I wanted that to be in, all she has to do is select the text and then come up here and choose ignore media or command delete, and it's going to cross out that section, and you can just bring it back by highlighting it again and hitting command delete again, and it will unignore the media, versus highlighting something and hitting delete, which removes it completely and makes it a lot more difficult to get back if you later change your mind. Now, if you do a video podcast, or most of your videos are like straight to camera, talking head, not a lot of fancy stuff going on, then you're good to go. You could export, which I'll get to in just a minute, but what about background music and sound effects and B-roll and elements and things like that? Let's dive into some of the fancy stuff down here. You're going to want to go to your layer size. Make sure you have this set to large, and you might also want to increase this a little bit so you can see what's going on in your actual timeline. And then over here on the right hand side, let's come down to elements. This is where you have your text. If you want to add a title screen, you can add a title and do whatever you want there. With that, you can change the colors, you can change the justification, the size, the font, and you can see that this element got added down here to the timeline, and you can actually treat it just like a clip. Like I could split the clip by hitting S on my keyboard, deleting that half, and then adjusting this just like it was a regular video clip. The same thing goes for any of these like objects that you might want to add. You can move them around, within your video frame just by selecting them. But when it comes to adjusting when they come into your frame and how long they stay, you're going to have to adjust that down here in the timeline. Or if you wanted something to be on your screen while you say these exact words, you could select the words and then let's add a waveform, I guess. And Descript will add the waveform for you to your timeline, but only where you had that text selected. This is effectively creating what Descript calls scenes. You can see the slashes over here in the transcript, and you can also see these vertical, very light colored lines over here that also denote the beginning or the end of a scene. You can create scenes in your timeline as well by hitting a slash button and choosing where to put them, and then select an element, and it will usually come in right in the scenes that you selected. The more scenes you have in your project, the more complicated your edit becomes and the more unpredictable Descript becomes. My advice is always like the fewer scenes, the better. The function of scenes also applies to any stock images that you decide to put in here or stock videos. It also applies to your background music and your sound effects. And by the way, Descript has a whole like audio and visual stock media area, but you can also import your own background music or your own sound effects. Like if you use Epidemic Sound like I do, you can import them into your project or just drag them down to your timeline. And then of course you want to come down to layer and make some adjustments to the volume and the duration of how long they're actually playing in your video. And then captions is where you create your dynamic captions that you see so often on social media. I want to apply this to all scenes, and these are already like pre-designed, the colors, the fonts and everything. It basically creates a caption track on your timeline, and it takes the transcript that's already there and turns it into your dynamic captions for you. So if you have it selected, you could come up here and customize how you wanted it to show up, including, you know, the animations, the font, the size, and obviously you're going to have to tweak your captions to fit your style and your branding and your colors. Now, if you're done with your video and you're ready to export it and upload it to YouTube, there's a couple of different options. This is a little bit confusing, but Descript likes to recommend that you use the publishing feature because it's faster. So all of like the rendering, the exporting, all of that stuff is going to happen in the cloud, versus the export option is going to export directly to your hard drive. So I always recommend that you choose export. Make sure you go to video, current composition. I like to go obviously my maximum resolution, which for me is 1080, high quality. These are the audio settings that I use. You can take a screenshot if you want and then hit export. It's going to save directly to your hard drive or whatever folder that you select so that you have the, you know, hard file. You can preview it before you upload it. You can back it up to an external hard drive if you want, so that you always have that like final edit, that final file for yourself, and it's not getting lost out there in cloud land. If this video was helpful for you, give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments if there's any specific features in Descript that you want me to cover more in depth. And don't forget to grab my Descript cheat sheet, which I'll link to down in the description below.